Good morning. By now, Ms. Wynn has probably already given you the information about why active observation is important in the classrooms. You've read a short excerpt from our TLAC book that we are using for boot camp that's going to really dive deeper into active observation and then looking at aggressive monitoring within the classroom and at different areas within your lesson. So the video that Miss Wynn should have showed was of one of our second grade teachers who was at the time she posed the question to her class, and then after she posed the question to their class, the students were then asked to go into their My Books, look for the question or look for the answers to the question, and then search for that information. You're going to see her getting up, monitoring her kiddos, providing certain feedback to specific students, and then she returns back to the chair to kind of dive a little bit deeper into asking and explaining what part of her question. If Ms. Wynn doesn't show this, I will put the link to the video in the email as well so that whenever you get a chance, you can go back and you can watch this very short video. What we're going to do is we're going to move deeper into what active observation looks like for reading, specifically focusing on the teacher direct instruction, which is the I do in the whole group. So when you're doing this, you want to kind of keep in mind what skill or concept do you want the students to learn. So for us, that's going to be, do I want my students to learn central idea this week? Do I want today? Do I want my students to learn point of view today? Do I want my students to learn synthesize? Focus on the specific skill for that day, and you will know exactly what you are going to be looking for as far as students to learn. The next question you should be keeping in your mind is, how are you going to check for that understanding as you're going through your lesson? How are you going to check to see if they understand what you are teaching them? So one thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and look at our lesson plans that we have. And so I pulled up the lesson plans for this week. And so what you're currently seeing are the lesson plans for this week. But then we're going to scroll all the way down to Thursday, which is where you're going to be actually diving into an actual lesson. So I'm looking at the lesson plan and I see that we have the anchor chart, and then we also have the graphic organizer that we're going to be using. The I do, which of course is our teacher directed, says the teacher will model how to pull cues from a picture or text to make an inference. So we're going to be focusing on inferencing. That is our skill. Teacher will model how to fill in the graphic organizer with evidence to support the evidence we make. So one thing we're going to do, we're going to stop right there. We know what skill we're going to focus on. How will we know the students are able to understand that? When you model that pulling the clues out, make sure it's very explicit and that students are able to do that. Before you move into that we do portion, you always want to make sure that you're checking for understanding. So some of the things that Ms. Casella went through, the different response cards, the whiteboards, those are different techniques that you can use to check for understanding. I'm going to put in the email as well a link to a formative assessment toolbox that we have used in the past. It's also going to give you various other short and quick assessment ways to check for students' understanding. Because one thing you want to do is make sure students are understanding and we're not teaching a full-on lesson without going back and making sure that the students are able to understand what they're doing. So right now, what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and look at this lesson plan and see if there's a way or where you can go ahead and embed a spot to check for that understanding for our kiddos during that I do part. Once you do that, then we're going to go ahead and move on to the Friday, and we'll do the same thing for Friday. So looking at what our I do is, identifying the specific skill that we're going to be teaching and what we expect students to learn. And then we are going to find a spot to put in that check for understanding before we release them to do that we do part as a class. I'll know you'll have this completed by looking at your lesson plans for Wednesday. That will be your exit ticket, is to go in to your lesson plans for this week and add those check for understanding pieces. If you have any questions about this video or any need further clarification, definitely reach out. I'll do my best to answer those emails. But yes, definitely just reach out. Thank you, and I do apologize for not being here today.